Lauren. Thank you so much for being here with us today. So sad that you weren't able to be here in person, but we are so thankful that you're able to share some time with us virtually. So I'm looking forward to this conversation a great deal. So I'm going to just jump right into it. So you have been at Dick's for about 11 years,
Correct.
Going from CMO to president to CEO, and you took the CEO role obviously in a very atypical time during the pandemic. We share some commonalities there. I started at IAB in the pandemic as well, so we can talk about some war stories at some point. Can you take us on a quick journey of your experience as you've been at the company, and how has it changed over time?
Yes. And thank you for having me, David. I'm really glad to be here. And going back to 2011, I started off at Dick's as the chief marketing officer. And I had come out of Pepsi. I'd been at Pepsi for 14 years, and I had spent a lot of time, 10 years in marketing at Pepsi. But prior to that, I had been in strategic planning for 4 years. And prior to that, I had been in finance and banking. But I joined in marketing and had a ton to learn, because CPG marketing is actually very different from retail marketing. And there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differences and things I had to learn. And I spent the next few years in marketing, leading sort of our first ever brand building campaigns, and that was fantastic. But the thing about Dick's, which is always just amazing, is we are a small company that got big very quickly, and thus there's just endless opportunities. And so I found myself all of a sudden, running one of our specialty concepts, and then running e-commerce and becoming the president and having that amazing opportunity running our stores and supply chain. And then, yes, about a year ago became the CEO, which is just an unbelievable opportunity. Just as a data point, the Dick's is a family. It's been family founded and run until I'm the first CEO to not be part of the family, but I'm working very close in concert with Ed Stack, who really, for all intents and purposes, took the company from 2 stores to what it is today, a $12 billion company. So I'm very, very blessed with the opportunity.
Awesome. That is an awesome story. Great story. And you're doing fabulous work since you've been in that role, and obviously before, but we'll get to some of that detail in a second. Omnichannel is a word that's kind of been around in the industry for some time. I think from everything that I have seen, Dick's is really walking the walk as it relates to being an omnichannel brand, especially in the kind of new retail environment. While others are contracting their footprint, are cutting down, it doesn't appear that that's the strategy. And it also seems that you've put a lot of effort into data and technology at the core, which I think are both related. So talk a little bit about the role of the store in your mind, and the role of data and technology, and how that's helped over the pandemic.
Yes, a great question. If you go back, certainly pre-pandemic, but maybe to 2017 timeframe, if you were a retailer, the question you got on every single earnings call or anytime you had the opportunity to speak to anybody about the company was, why do you have so many stores? You clearly have too many and they're too big. So that was just the ingoing assumption. And back then we didn't believe that. There was a shift going on between our brick and mortar stores and our e-commerce business, but we had invested in the e-commerce business, and we felt the power of brick and mortar was incredibly important. And if you fast forward now, the brick and mortar stores have become the absolute hub of this. You called it omnichannel. We called it omnichannel ecosystem. But brick and mortar stores are not only 800 points of places where people can go and get expert advice and find products, but they're also points of distribution for us. So we now ship out of all of our stores, either to home or deliver curbside to the customer. And that turned out during the pandemic, when the stores closed, abruptly on March 18th, I'll never forget the day. For 2 months they closed, because we had invested in technology and gotten our systems such that we could pivot really, really quickly. We were able to turn on that curbside capability in literally in 2 days. So we announced we were closing the stores on a Wednesday. We announced it on Sunday, and we had the curbside up and ready. It just speaks to, again, the power of omnichannel, and people have adopted that kind of convenience. So if I want to go in the store, great. If I wanted to drive by and get it put in my car, great. And it just reinforces to us that the stores are the hub.
Yeah,
I do want to point out one other thing about our stores is even back in the time when stores were again being kind of criticized, we were really leaning into experiences in the store. So we had put baseball batting cages in the store so people could actually swing a bat, and we had golf simulators and
rock walls, yes.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yes. And now we have 100,000 square foot house of sport destinations that have everything from a track and field to a rock climbing wall to everything going on. And we have found that actually is really, it's just doing an incredible job bringing new people in and driving traffic to the stores.
That's fantastic. And that is definitely counter to kind of the wisdom of the industry, but it seems like it's working very well for you. And that seems like it's a core kind of asset that you have. And it makes tons of sense to me. In a world where experiences are kind of tantamount to kind of making decisions as to what you buy, I think it's a brilliant idea. Let's change gears a little bit. We're going to talk about some macro leadership issues. And we talk a lot about kind of the what or the why, but I don't think spend enough time talking about the how. And as running a company, I'm sure that you spend a lot of time thinking about as an externally facing brand to customers or to an internally facing kind of brand to your employees. How do you do that? How do you institutionalize innovation in an organization?
So you're right. It's hard to take something so intangible as innovation or innovative spirit and actually institutionalize it. But I do think we have some aspects of our culture that do encourage it. So one, I mentioned earlier, we were a small company that got big pretty quickly, but we've maintained an incredibly nimble edge to us. So we make decisions really quickly, and I would say notably more quickly than other companies, just in terms, it's very clear how decisions get made. We make them, we pivot. We're willing to try and fail. And I've been a part myself of different experiments that haven't worked, but we actually celebrate the failures because in each case, if we've tried something, we've learned something that we've been able to bring in to the Dick's chain in various ways or shapes or forms. So we actually value innovation. Ideas can come from anywhere. I feel personally like the best ideas actually come out of our stores. We have 40,000 teammates out there, and we spend a lot of time just going out and talking to teammates and trying to hear what's on their minds. And some of the best ideas come from there, and they feel empowered to share their ideas and to try things at the local level. So it's really, I think it's very foundational to the culture that you have to be encouraging it.
Yes, and one of the kind of phrases that I saw in my research, the people first strategy, which I think bears that out entirely, which makes tons of sense to me.
Yes.
One of the other topics that we're going to be talking about at ALM, our annual leadership meeting, is around the role of private organizations in taking a stand on more macro societal or social issues.
Yes.
Maybe the most impressive thing or interesting thing that I've come across is kind of what you have done in that space. Can you talk a little bit about your perspective on that and how you've actioned it?
Yes, it's a great question. And I do think companies bear a responsibility to contribute in positive ways to the society and the world at large. And I think what you're referring to is back in 2018, we, after the Parkland shooting, frankly, just felt like the gun laws that existed were not doing enough to keep communities safe, to protect us even as we're following all the rules. And after Parkland, we actually found out that that shooter had actually legally bought a gun from us right prior to the shooting. It wasn't the gun that he used, but it was just such a wake-up call in terms of like, how are we doing this? We don't want to be in the business. We don't want to be selling assault style rifles. And we don't think the gun laws are protecting us or our community. So we did take action. We sat for 2 weeks. So February 14th, I'll never forget these dates. February 14th was the Parkland shooting. And then on February 28th, we announced that we were going to remove assault style rifles permanently from our shelves. We were not going to sell to anyone under 21 ever, because there are all these different loopholes that you don't even realize. Like the kids can buy an assault rifle at 18, but not a handgun until they're 21. It makes no sense. So we just said we're not selling any firearms at all to anyone 21 and under, and we're not going to sell bump stocks or anything that created a high capacity magazine situation. So taking that action was incredibly bold. And I will say I'm honored to have been, I was president at the time, but it was a whole leadership getting together, locking arms, knowing that we were about to go make a big statement and actually anger potentially some people in our customer base. And that certainly did happen. I mean, we lost that year. We knew going in, we were putting about $250 million at risk. And that is in the end what we ended up losing related to that action. But I feel like the company now is stronger than ever. And I will say that things that we choose to get involved in, and not every company may feel this way, but we choose to get involved in things where we think we have a unique point of view or can add specific value. So for example, with the gun situation, like we were aware of the loopholes, aware of some of the really difficult rules that were not protecting communities, and we were able to speak to that. The other thing we've just really gotten behind is what we call our Sports Matter initiative, which is addressing a youth funding crisis in sports, where billions has been cut. And we believe, obviously, to the core here, that sports do make people better, that people learn life lessons when they're able to play sports. It exercises their leadership capability, their mind, their body. And so we've put millions of dollars behind youth sports, but we don't get involved in everything. We pick our battles and choose what we feel like we can have unique impact on.
Totally inspirational. I mean, honestly, that is kudos to you. And I think that
thank you.
It's a bold move. The $250 million hit is something that you anticipated, and you have to obviously just move forward because it's the right thing to do. That was awesome. Let's talk about another kind of different but also inspiring area, which is about inclusion and inclusivity. The phrase "everyone's an athlete" is something that I came across. Talk about the work that you're doing in that space, and how could you measure if that work is working or not?
So that's a great question. We have a large DE&I effort, as do most companies, thankfully. And we have 20 what we call impact teams that have made such a meaningful improvement in multiple areas where we felt like we could get better internally and in serving our customers. We call our customers athletes. We have a non-discrimination policy, zero tolerance. So we'll fire a customer if we have to, if they're not treating people with respect. But what's been really, really awesome, and going back to like kind of the focusing on what we think we can add unique value to, is we have as a company gotten so behind inclusivity when it comes to women in sports and women in life in general. So we have two customer groups in the female in our female shoppers. We have what we call the female athlete, who's like a teen athlete who's out playing actual youth sports, and then we have an athletic female who might be the mom of an athlete, male and female. And in both cases, we felt like we had major opportunities to serve them better. The unique voice that we can bring to the team sport athlete, the girl athlete, she is being completely underserved, and it's painful to have them come into our stores and feel like we are not respecting the female athlete. In the position I'm in, I hear it quite a bit, because it's very notable that you say we're supporting women, and yet there's fewer products for girls. And the typical mantra in the industry has been they call it pink it and shrink it, which is just take a male product. It wasn't designed for a girl's body. It wasn't designed for her foot form. And it matters, and they just shrink it, and that's not products for girls. And so girls were going to the boys section, buying unisex, buying products that aren't for them. We have been advocating, we're a pain in the neck to our partner brands, that this was an issue for a long time, and we finally have made really good progress. And we've got this year, for the first time ever, 5 female-specific basketball shoes made on a female foot form, and really creating a section for female athletes in basketball. And we'll be doing that in other categories. I'm very, very excited about that. But the other thing I'll just say in terms of the athletic female, we had a gap. That's the older, that's the woman like me. We had a gap in our portfolio where moms were coming in and buying stuff for their kids, but not buying stuff for themselves. The brands skewed a little bit younger, they skewed more athletic. And so we've created this Kalia brand, which is really an incredible athletic apparel brand that has become our number 2 athletic apparel female brand, which is really amazing. And then we looked internally and said, you know what, there's a ton of women in leadership around Dick's Sporting Goods. And I'm not sure people would know that. They wouldn't maybe think that when they think about our heritage and our name and we would surprise people with the level of women in our leadership position. So we did start to sort of turn the camera inward and show some of the women.
They were magical. They were amazing. I love them. Yeah.
Thank you. You're afraid this Inside Moves campaign that we did just showed some of the awesome women at Dick's Sporting Goods. And I think what was so great about that is we heard from, we've heard incredible things. We heard some not so incredible things, but mostly incredible things, but a lot of dads reaching out and talking about how nice it was for them to be watching with their daughters and showing that their daughters can do anything. So that's kind of the other aspect of it.
Awesome. That's great. DEI and female empowerment, just as a general kind of topic, is a big area that we're going to be focusing on here and obviously in the future. And we're trying to kind of not just say it on stage, but actually put it in action, which I think you've done in spades. I've just got maybe 2 more questions for you. This has been awesome. So you're one of only 41 female CEOs in the Fortune 500. In your estimation, what does it take to get more female leaders in the Fortune 500? What do we need to do as an industry?
Yes. It is a little daunting that how much opportunity there still is at the leadership levels for women, but it is changing, and I do believe it is getting better. And I'll just point to in terms of what we have to do. We have to have women role models. I mean, I was incredibly fortunate growing up that I had a really strong mom and really strong grandmothers who just being female was never an issue or never held me back whatsoever. But then I was lucky enough to work at Pepsi, which had a female CEO and Indra Nooyi for multiple years. So it just never occurred to me that I couldn't be a CEO, but I never wanted to be a CEO, I do have to say. So I think women also don't, maybe I've read this quite a bit. Women don't always see themselves as filling that role. And I do think women need to realize that they too can fill any role that's available. And you take the flip side of the 41, I'm going to try and do my math right, but 459 men who are the other, I hope I got that right, who are the other people filling those roles. It's a responsibility on them as well when they think about their succession plans to think about, are there capable women? I mean, in my particular case, Ed Stack, who I mentioned before, he really did tap me more than I put myself out in front of. He saw something in me that I didn't really see before. And he and I are really, really different people, but he valued, some of what you mentioned, the people first leadership approach and really just connecting with people. It worked really well in a retail organization with 50,000 employees. And so we just really have been a great match. And I think it's just incumbent on men to just think differently about who their successors could be.
Awesome. Good advice. Last question. I don't think any of us could have predicted the last 2 years. So looking in our crystal ball forward is obviously it's a tough one. But let's look in your crystal ball over the next, let's say, 3 to 5 year horizon. Where does Dick's go from here? What's the trajectory?
Well, if my dreams come true, which hopefully they will, Dick's will continue to. We are at this point. I think we're known as a category killer. I hate to use that word, but we're sort of the dominant sporting goods retailer, but it's my hope that we actually become synonymous with sports, with youth sports, so that when you're thinking about your kids' games, it's not just, hey, I have to get equipment, but we have a game changer digital app, which is giving team management software and solutions for scheduling, and then actually providing scoring and statistics. So we want to be part of your entire sports journey. It could be training, it could be lessons, any part of it. And we're going to continue to try to build that, ecosystem out so that we are synonymous with sports.
Awesome. I hope your dreams do come true. And
Thank you.
ours did. You came to our ALM. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom with the group. I know that our audience is smarter because of it. And maybe after all the craziness and we're past the pandemic, we'll actually get you on an actual stage
Absolutely.
in a future meeting. You've been fantastic. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Thanks so much, David. I appreciate it.